After 2 long days of riding, I finally arrived at the doorstep of Turkey, crossing the border from Bulgaria. I didn't really have the time to stop and explore much during the European leg of the journey because winter was closing in, but I made sure to take the time to set up camp and bivouac every night. After a full day in the saddle, it's important to just slow down and relax. Sadly, the weather wasn't very welcoming. A persistent fine drizzle made lighting a proper fire quite difficult. However, I always keep a tin of sardines deep in my bag, ready to play its dual role as a stove and as a source of protein. I've shown this technique several times in a video, and it can even be used to bake bread. The principle is simple. Place a piece of burning cotton wool on top of a tin and let the flame slowly consume the oil. You get a steady little flame that's enough to boil water, cook pasta, or, in this case, cook my dehydrated chicken broth. Because before I left, I took the time to prepare several pouches of this dehydrated broth. It's packed with nutrients, takes almost no space, and paired with some lard like here, it makes a perfect dinner. You can even add to it some rice or pasta to make it more filling. Just a couple of days after, I finally reached my first big checkpoint, Istanbul. The moment I arrived, I was honestly a bit stuck by the volume of traffic. Like, the streets are incredibly crowded and scooters dart everywhere, waving right and left. It's a whole different kind of organized chaos, honestly. Finally, I had the time to properly settle down, to recharge with some kebabs, and to have a good night of sleep. Even if honestly, okay, it's nice to sleep in a bed, but hostels are always very loud. The day after, I stumbled across a Turkish pastry shop, which is one of my many Achilles heel. I'm a very weak man. So I took a quick break at the foot of Galata Bridge, and then I was off in the direction of Topkapi Palace.
My dream came true.
The bridge itself was pretty cool. Dozens of fishermen were lined up, pulling mullets and sardines out of the water. And of course, a few opportunistic street cats were there to try to get their share of a catch. Speaking of cats, they are everywhere and very well taken care of. People leave food and cardboard for them pretty much everywhere to sleep and to eat. And sometimes you can even find some cat food distributors. It's actually pretty difficult to walk anywhere because you're constantly tempted to stop and to pet cats everywhere you go. But I finally managed to make it to the gates of Topkapi Palace. So Topkapi Palace is an extensive complex built around a series of 4 grand courtyards. Visually, it's a stunning blend of Ottoman architecture, all surrounded by high walls, giving it a real fortress feel. For nearly 400 years, from the mid-15th century, Topkapi was the primary residence and administrative heart of the Ottoman Empire. It was where the Sultan lived, ruled, and where the most powerful decisions of the empire were made. It was commissioned by Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror shortly after he captured Constantinople in 1453. The entire design reflects on clear hierarchy. The first courtyard was the most public, and as you move deeper through the gates into the second, third and fourth courtyard, which has the kitchen, the Imperial Council, the treasury and the harem, you get access to more restricted and private areas. And at the end you find the Sultan's own private retreat with a breathtaking panorama view. Today it's now a museum showcasing incredible collections like the Imperial Treasury and the Sacred Relics. So about the Sacred Relics section, so this is where things get a little bit weird. So you walk through rooms holding things like the Staff of Moses, the Sword of David, and what they claim is the footprint of the Prophet Muhammad. Let's just say that they have assembled the greatest collection of, well, like highly speculative biblical props in one place. Right outside the walls of Topkapi, you are standing in Sultanahmet Square. And the next structure that immediately grabs your attention is the monumental Hagia Sophia. So historically, this building is Byzantine. It was originally built in the 6th century by the Emperor Justinian, and for over 900 years it stood as the largest Christian church in the world. After the Ottoman conquest of Constantinople in 1453, it was then converted into a mosque. High on the walls you can still clearly see murals of the Christ and Mary. By then I needed a proper refuel line, so I found a nice spot to have a little kebab break. And then I was off to the Grand Bazaar. The Grand Bazaar is one of the oldest, largest covered markets in the world. If you're looking for a place to get seriously lost and spend all your money and get utterly overwhelmed by organized chaos, well, this is definitely it. My next stop was the Suleiman Mosque, which is just a short walk away. So visually it's a stunning example of classical Ottoman design, completed in the mid-16th century for Suleiman the Magnificent. Unlike the Hagia Sophia, a somewhat heavier look, this mosque is all about proportionality and elegance. The interior is bright thanks to large windows in the main dome, and the focus is on purity and geometry. You won't find the busy mosaics of Hagia Sophia there. Instead, the decoration is subdued, featuring beautiful, detailed ethnic tilework in blues and reds. After a quick little break with one ginger cat, who really are everywhere, I headed towards the other side of the city to see the Galata Tower. So the tower is easily one of the most recognizable landmarks in the city. It's a massive conical stone cylinder built back in the 14th century, originally part of the defensive wall system. However, no haystack was waiting down below. After passing through Taksim Square, I took a short detour to find the Ferikoi Antika Bazari. It's just an antique and flea market, but it's pretty nice to see actually. It's a little bit outside the city, but it's worth a detour. It's much more laid back, spread out across an open area and packed with vendors selling all kind of items. You can find everything here, like vintage cameras, stack of antique books, old military medals, Ottoman era ceramics, classical vinyls record, and all sorts of random beautiful junk. The atmosphere is pretty cool and feels much less aggressive than the main bazaar. Anyway, it was a perfect way to finish the day. The day after I left for Ankara. I actually managed to find a great little garage for my bike while I was here. They only charged me about €2 per day, which was quite a win. So I decided to leave Istanbul as I really started to appreciate its busy street, its food and its beauty. But honestly, as I enjoyed the break, it's far too easy, honestly, to get soft when you're staying in an hostel. You socialize, you can easily get settled into a comfortable couch with a decent Wi-Fi connection, and before you know it, you've forgotten why you're even here. You lose that drive to explore, to discover, and to actually push yourself out of your comfort zone. Don't get me wrong, you can't bivouac every single night forever, you'd burn out. But for me, staying in a hostel for too long is even worse, especially on a trip that lasts for weeks or months. It's a bit of a trap. It's way too easy to just hang out with other Europeans or travelers, which can make you feel nostalgic, but also completely cuts you from other encounters with locals, for example. If you stay inside that bubble, you miss out the real connection and those wild, unpredictable experiences that actually make the trip. So my next stop was Ankara, but with the absolute nightmare of Istanbul traffic, I knew I wasn't going to make it in one go. I was gonna have to find a spot to camp regardless. However, one of the big downsides of traveling this late in the autumn is how short the days are. Back when I was riding in Norway, I remember sitting in my tent sipping tea after dinner while watching the sunset. Here it's a different story. I'm almost always still on the saddle when the sun goes down, chasing the last bit of light and warmth just before I stop to find a place to sleep. The temperature drops as soon as it gets dark. Luckily, I'm not in the high desert yet, so there's still enough brush and wood around to build a proper fire. The wood in this region is bone dry, so it caught almost instantly, struggling with damp logs or stinging smoke in my eyes. On the menu tonight, mushroom pasta sauté in butter with chunks of beef. It's actually what I needed to fuel up for the night. It's funny because people think you're just sitting still on a motorcycle, but you actually burn a massive amount of calories when you travel. You have to stay on top of your intake, fibers, carbs, protein, if you want to keep going days after day, especially for a few weeks or months. The night was pretty cold, but the spot and the food was perfect.